Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the season finale of Ms. Marvel No Normal. And I think that this was the worst episode of the season, hence the jacket. I do not think that they did a good job with this finale, and I do not think they did a good job with Kamala. I think that Marvel needs to reorient themselves and figure out what they want to do, because now we are pushing more of a they are going to put out quantity versus quality. And we did kind of see with Thor Love and Thunder that they let Taika Waititi go a little bit further than I think they needed to, into making it more of essentially like a rom-com, and it kind of fucked with it. There are still good things in there, but it could have been better if certain things had been more focused, and there was an overall plan for phase 4, because at this point they're kind of just doing random things, and there are certain things of being like focusing on certain characters and doing kind of more personal stories, because that kind of works out, so that way you can build those personal stories into bigger kind of things. But with Ms. Marvel and everything, it just shows that they are trying to just put as much Marvel content out there as possible. I would I wouldn't hold up any of these shows that have come out so far against like the good seasons of like Agents of Shield. Now granted, I haven't seen most of the Netflix Marvel shows, but from what I've heard, Daredevil is probably top tier among what would be considered, comparing it to this as well. Granted, I will get to that at some point, but I WandaVision had severe issues and just was like, what the actual fuck? Okay, I understand what you're trying to accomplish, but you got in your own way. Falcon and the Winter Soldier had some nice kind of solids with Sam and Bucky's relationship and everything, but again, the pandemic forced issues into like fuckery of the story, and that just went kind of like, what? Loki at least had some interesting ideas and concepts and didn't completely and utterly shit the bed. Like, I like Loki. Granted, are there things that need to be done to probably have made it better? Sure. But overall, I'll be like, okay, cool. I didn't watch What If, but I kind of got the concepts like, okay, exploring other kind of things. And Hawkeye, I just like that it was kind of like a Christmas show, and again, that's still a pretty decent one for what they did, even though, of course, it still had more issues. The whole thing is they're trying to make elongated movies. It's like, no, these need to be TV shows. Like, when you do a TV show, you don't just need an arc for the whole thing. And then you don't just chop it up willy-nilly and fucking do whatever the fuck you want. You need arcs and how plots and pacings work out within the episodes themselves. Like, it is a completely different kind of way to do than, like, a self-contained thing that happens within a movie. Like, you just don't do it and be like, hey, here we go. And then just see what goes on. So this definitely has me just being like, alright, we'll see how She-Hulk goes down, but especially with what was like going on effects wise here, I'm just like, whatever. So we come back from what happened of the random fucking explosion that we see. Oh, and by the way, the Department of Damage Control shouldn't be handling what's going on here. It's very clear that they needed a shield-like organization to handle this, didn't have one, and just slapped the Department of Damage Control on this, because usually they come and they control the damage after shit. This really shows why S.H.I.E.L.D. or some kind of Avengers organization needs to handle this kind of stuff. So, damage control is kind of the antagonistical thing here, but also Cameron, because fucking reasons. And they're not really consistent with what his powers do, because it almost gets to a certain point that you think that he's becoming a veil bomb to a degree. From at least what I was seeing, where his powers kind of going out of control. I understand he doesn't have the control, and I guess the bands link to the control of like what Kamala's able to do with her shit, because we never see any of the clandestine doing any of this shit with the Noir stuff. Only her and Kamran, and it's never explained why. Except maybe at the end we'll get to that fuckery to ensue anyway. So Bruno and Cameron are just fucking booking it. His shit's going all haywire. Damage Control's going after him. They pretty much get to the mosque, and they're trying to get pretty much sanctuary kind of stuff. They're like, we'll get you out of here. It's like, Nakia's like, of course they're going to be looking here. It's like, all right. So she pretty much sends them off to the high school because nobody would be there. Nobody would check there. It's like, all right, but the thing is, you're making a pattern that a lot of people wouldn't go to the school on those certain days. So there's going to be a lot of people doing stupid shit in that school, which kind of happens at the end. Evidently, this still lines up that like Kamala was in Pakistan, but somehow got back super fucking quick. Again, pacing and rushedness because plot reasons, because she then attempts to tell her family, but of course her dad goes on speakerphone so everybody knows, and her brother's kind of busting her balls about it and everything. It's like, yes, alright. And then they're just kind of like asking like actual questions about like, oh, how she's able to do it, does she need to recharge, what kind of works out with that, which I, again, am more interested in the supporting characters than her. This episode does not show why you should care about Kamala. And I think that is a very big problem here. Now, granted, if you like Kamala and you like how she's presented here and everything, that's cool. But I think as an anchor character, we didn't really get that much on her. She mainly passively has to act against everything that the plot demands is thrown at her way. We never really see her truly thinking or doing things mainly on her own. We mainly get that she is a Carol Danvers fan, a Captain Marvel fan for whatever reason. Like, we just see that she's a fangirl of it, and she doesn't really delve into why why she is a fangirl of her. What are the traits that she likes of Carol Danvers? What moments really inspire her to understand to be a hero, because she really doesn't act as a hero in this show. And I don't say that lightly or to be a contrarian or whatnot. She only really mainly saves one kid that just randomly pops up. Otherwise, she's pretty much sometimes kind of training her powers. But I kind of also link that down to what kind of budgetary constraints they have, because this one goes effects fucking crazy, and it's just like, alright, that you should have better quality effects, but whatever. So they're kind of dealing with that. Nakia pretty much is calling her to try and figure out what's going on with Bruno. This is where it kind of lines up, and they try and get in contact with him, don't really have it. The mom brings up the suit that we see, which I actually like this suit. The costuming design for her suit works very well for what we've seen from the comics, so I'm like, that's actually pretty cool. And telling her that she trusts her. Like, it was really weird when the mom's like, I trust you, and that, like, her father's like, I just want you to be safe and not to be pretty much reckless and everything. She's like, we have to trust her. It's like, really? Because you whiffle waffle with whatever the plot demands you to kind of like say if you trust her or not. Like, there's no kind of defining character moment that I really latch onto here that shows that they have a really big understanding of each other. Mainly things that are adjacent enough that you can kind of infer. Like, her understanding what happened with her mother, and then not trying to do the same thing with Kamala. So she pretty much starts running around to figure out where they're at. The imam dude pretty much gives them hats as like gives Bruno and Kamran hats as disguises. We see that the Devers chick is being pretty much just a complete and utter asshole, having some of her stuff pretty much being heavily kind of like implied to be kind of racist before she's like, hey, we gotta get them. What do you mean? Oh, kids with these kind of powers. It's like, yeah, but like, it's the writing and the execution. I'm like, I don't mind that she'd be a racist prick. and asshole and cunt and dick and all that kind of shit. But it's just like they wanted to kind of go that route, but then don't then just immediately walk it back or whatnot. I don't mind if a character changes or whatnot. It's just like, all right. And then she just completely and utterly goes off and is like, I'm gonna capture these motherfuckers. It's like, all right, because she's going through the mosque, and we for some reason get Nakia fucking calling this one dude her boyfriend. I'm just like, I don't care. Like, all right. Like, she's doing it to throw them off as they're kind of running away. They get into the high school that evidently everybody can get into. Zoe goes into there for her TikTok videos. I'm like, all right, cool. And then she's like, oh yeah, Kamala saved me, so I'll help her out whatever we can. And then the brother pops up for some odd fucking reason to pretty much chaperone her. But it was just, we get set up for this kind of like giant kind of confrontation, and it is just wacky and essentially just so low budget enough that you're like, I'm not really interested in this. And then it just starts getting a lot of plot contrivances that are just like, you actually fucking did this? And if you could do this, why the fuck didn't you just like stop him? So Kamala kind of goes through with this plan that it's made to look like she comes up with, but it just is like, okay, we're gonna do this, that, and the other. We need softballs and all this. And the thing is, it's going in such a kind of sporadic kind of order. You're like, all right, did you come up with this? Other people, so they pretty much come up with the idea of dressing up in various different the same kind of clothes of like hoodies and hats to pretty much throw off the damage control guard agent people, which the lady was told not to go in and to just stop and not let the optics get completely bad on this. It's like, stop attacking the children. There's got to be better ways to handle this. It's like, yes, there's like no kind of communication whatsoever. Granted, if you're going with a fascistic kind of organization, kind of government overreach kind of deal, yeah, all right, but that needs to be more clearly defined of like there is actually a disconnect because this person's kind of going rogue in the field and just be like, I'm gonna capture this motherfucker. Why? I mean, I understand that you're trying to limit damage and all that kind of shit, but the thing is, if you're able to, I don't know, talk to the person and be like, hey, yeah, these powers are kind of out of control and could potentially, like, explode him. I thought that's where they were kind of going with it towards the end, but, like, no. And he kind of gets a handle on it, and fuck if I understand how or why. But we see them go through, and they set up this one thing to make it look like a bomb, but it's a speaker thing, and then one of the damage control people shoots it. Like, he calls it in, like, we've got, like, a potential bomb or whatnot. And he fucking shoots it. Granted, we know that they don't have access to bombs. But it was just a moment of clear fucking stupidity of, I don't even know what kind of weapons they've got. But if you shoot at something that you could potentially think of as a bomb, and even though you think it's a speaker, you don't fucking shoot it unless you confirm that it is not a bomb. It was just a level of stupidity that just dumbfounded me, because I'm like, they can be dead. And I'm like, I don't think they deserve to be dead, but ooh, Nelly, it fucking shit. It just really is like, alright. And then we get them pretty much running through this, and it was just very uninteresting to me. Like, yes, we get stuff going on. The only one good thing was that for some reason Kamala and Bruno were able to mix up this kind of like phone thing that was able to pretty much encase people and stop them. I'm like, why didn't you fucking do any more of that? Like, that's a really effective fucking thing, and if you would actually be able to like weaponize that shit, you could have just like non-lethally dealt with these assholes. People chased around. Her buddies pretty much get captured by damage control. She almost has a tender moment with Kamran, which is almost immediately undone when she's pretty much brought up by Kamran being like, what happened to my mom? And she doesn't even really explain it. He's just left to infer anything, and she's like, I'm sorry, shit went down. She sacrificed herself to close the veil and all that kind of shit. And he's like, I don't believe you, and is like pretty much using his power to go after the damage control kind of people. and is going to kind of dick mode, even though it's like, do you have enough control to even attempt to do this kind of thing? Trying to set them up as like, it's unclear who they kind of want the antagonistic thing to be or how they want to go about this. I don't even think they have a clear idea of like what kind of hero they want Kamala to be, i.e., like non-lethally, how she usually wants to deal or handle violent kind of situations, what to do when a friend is doing these things, because she does nothing really to kind of talk him down. And it's just like, okay, their plan is pretty much to get him to she calls Kareem MK from the Badlands and is like, listen, I kind of need to get my buddy out of here. It's like, all right, get to the harbor at like midnight. It's like, no harbor specified, don't know where it's at. Fucking let's go. Who cares about the plot details? That's not important. Lights. Flashy shit. Things that make no sense. It's like, weren't you fighting that kind of shit? Alright, whatever. So, one of the damage control people pops in. Cameron's like, eat my ass with a blade of grass. And Merry Christmas tries to Merry Christmas him. I.e. just be like, Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. Hey, I didn't even try that one. That worked out. Tried to pretty much kill his ass, or like, fucking hit him with a giant dick of crystal. But Kamala's like, shield! And I was like, alright, good. And then she gets like knocked on the toilet and says gross. And then Cameron's pretty much going outside, getting ready to like shit and do everything. We see that Kamala's mom and everybody's like, what are you doing? Stop this shit. And I'm like, yeah. Even the cops are like, what the fuck are you guys doing, you assholes? And then she's pretty much trying to, the head agent chick, who's been told to stand down multiple times, is like, fuck that. I'm gonna do what I do, even though nobody knows why I'm doing it. And the thing is, I don't need complete and clear, like, this is the villain's exact goal. But something would be nice as to why she's doing this. And pretty much is using, like, a sonic device to pretty much, like, blast him with a cannon. But Kamala pops up and uses a shield. But then it kind of, like, gets broken through. And they're pretty much charging up again. But Kamala decides to do her embiggen thing. And I don't know, like, I understand that that's an important power for her in the comics because she actually enlarges herself, so that makes sense. Here, she just has a crystal thing that kind of, like, makes her, like, she, like, almost like an avatar kind of thing. And I'm just like, you're adapting the weirdest fucking shit here, guys. Like, it would have almost been better if you just made a new fucking character, because none of this is doing anything really well. I'm just like, whatever. So then she's like blasting through, using her stuff to pretty much stop the thing, but she doesn't go complete balls ass crazy and killing people or whatnot. She actually makes sure that the people in the truck are okay after she's pretty much like made sure that it's unusable, and able to pretty much try and like protect her friends in the car. But then Cameron's like, they'll never accept me. And it's like blasting out, almost similar to what we saw with the veil thing. But Kamala makes like a shield thing, and it's like, hey, listen, there is no normal. It's like, all right. And then she like makes a hole, and she just, it's like, go through and go to the harbor. It's like, all right, cool. And I'm like, this dude got here only like potentially a couple weeks ago. How the fuck is he supposed to know where to go on the streets, no less? How is he supposed to know that going in the sewers? Should have been eaten by like an alligator or something. And I have no hate against the character. It's just he is subjected to the whims of plot demanding fate. At first, he is the sexy, sultry kind of thing that will make Kamala's heart throb. And it's like, ah shit, she's connected to these like crazy people that are connected to her. And then he's like, I got powers, and I'm about to like kill people and shit because they won't accept me because I'm going. It's like, but do you have any understanding of why you're going? I don't know, because drama, conflict. That makes no sense. Alright. Shit. But then he gets to Pakistan and meets Kareem, and Kareem just gets up, and that's it. It's like, alright, whatever. We see that her mom and everybody else, and even the police, shield her from damage control, and then the Cleary dude is like, people are coming to relieve you, you motherfucker. She's like, alright, everybody get out. It's like, sure, you asshole. You should be fucking arrested for the shit that you were pulling, because you escalated the situation horrendously. Your whole objective is to control the damage. And you didn't do that. You're like, I'm going to pretty much chase them across everywhere. Fuck you. Whatever. Oh my god. Let's see. What else? Bruno's going to Caltech. He slips like a note in someone's locker that's not even really referenced again. He also... Cameron gives him his Porsche or supercar for whatever reason. And they kind of fight over that. And then comes... Oh, god damn it. Alright. As they're talking about the car and shit, Kamala's brother had pretty much talked to Bruno, be like, hey, could I do these kind of powers? Which, yes, makes sense that you would ask that. And that he analyzed Kamala's DNA and that she is different because she has a mutation. This is how they decide to set up mutants in the MCU. Again, most of my problems with this show are the execution. I understand adaptations have to change things, but that goddamn, their like one failure with the Inhumans have fucking just like made them double down on doing stupid fucking shit. I understand that her powers were similar to fucking Reed Richards, but fuck's sake, she has enough that you can kind of differentiate shit. Reed doesn't just make giant fucking fists or get big. He stretches shit. And her being an Inhuman is interesting because Inhumans have a lot more of a connective tissue with Carol Danvers, with the Kree, and all of that shit. Because the Inhumans were not just made to attempt to have Marvel have their mutants in the MCU before they had the mutant stuff back from X-Men and Fox. Okay? The Inhumans have been around for a fucking while. And it just fucks over the Inhuman fans and the mutant fans because it doesn't happen big in a movie or whatnot that we start seeing and understanding the rumblings of what the fuck, we have superheroes, but we also have people that have mutations that give them powers now, and what changes that ensues. No, it's this, which is a show that I wouldn't recommend anybody to watch because it's like, I don't enjoy it, and I don't believe it really adds that much before they're like, hey, she's a mutant now. And I'm like, alright, we'll have to see how that changes whatever goes on with Kamala's character. I'm just like, god damn it. And it's just done in such a weird, fucked up, almost lazy ass way that I'm just like, that's it? You're just gonna have, hey, we've got mutants in the MCU like this. Like, I would think that would be a seismic event that needs to be done in a movie as you start seeing things and bam, that happens. You're like, oh shit. This is gonna do some things. I don't know. If you are a Ms. Marvel fan, tell me how you think these changes kind of like impact and affect the character. I am not as well versed with her, but I liked the adaptation we got from her in the Marvel's Avengers game, and that dealt with the Inhumans. And granted, that's about the gist of what I liked. I felt there was more character from her and everything in there. I only played that through Game Pass, so yeah. Then we also get the weird ass execution of like the father telling her that her name means Marvel because they had tried to have a second child and they pretty much named her Marvel. It's like, oh, I shared that with Miss Marvel. It's like, you're like a young adult and this shit never came up, or you never like. The thing is, when you're going with this kind of thing, I don't mind that kind of connective tissue. That's okay. Again, it's the execution of it. Like, none of this was talked about before. Like, all this stuff only it happens when it's really convenient when you're trying to figure out why she's called Ms. Marvel. I don't even know why she's called Ms. Marvel in the comics, other than Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers was Ms. Marvel, and then she took on the title of Captain Marvel because Marvel died, and then she took on the title of Ms. Marvel, and I don't know. I'm just like, all right, whatever. And she gets certain kind of things where the mom's like, that doesn't sound like science homework up there, and then we get one of the most confusing fucking teases possible. Oh my god. If you're going to do a proper tease, you need the fucking context down. Otherwise, you're going to be confused as what the fuck is going on. Case in point, good example. Thor Love and Thunder. We are introduced to Zeus. Zeus doesn't like superheroes. We get the end credit scene. He decides to send Hercules to take down Thor's ass to make sure that the gods have supremacy and are worshipped as the motherfuckers that they are. I get that tease, sets up a conflict, sets up an introduction for a hero that works out pretty well, and I'm like, alright. This tease, Ms. Marvel is just doing her shit in her room, and then suddenly out of nowhere, her bangle goes, whee! And then she gets fucking slammed through a goddamn closet, and then I don't know if she had like shapeshifted into Carol Danvers, or that if she was traded spaces with Carol Danvers. It was so fucking confusing. I looked at the Wikipedia entry and it said that they switched places, trying to deal something. There were certain theories going around of like certain negabands or whatnot, and I'm like, that needs to be fucking explained. You can't just like be like, it's a bangle. Okay, why does this do this? And not have it explained in what's going on with the story. But evidently she switched places with Danvers. Danvers is like, why the fuck am I in a room with all this shit? And then goes, alright, fuck. And then bugs out. And I'm like, okay, I'm completely and utterly confused and don't know what this deals with the Marvels, but okay, here we go. I did like kind of like the costuming for Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel here. I'm like, alright, cool. That works. I just wish I had the context of what the fuck is going on. Because an effective tease doesn't tell you everything, sure. But you've got enough connective tissue to understand what's going on. It's not just out of nowhere and brings you forward of what's going on. Otherwise, this is just like a random thing of like, she gets traded spaces with Captain Marvel, and you're like, oh, you'll learn more in the Marvel movie. I'm like, okay, because you need to fucking explain that, but whatever. It just, God. I wouldn't really recommend this for the character work, because the anchor character, who this is centered around, doesn't get enough, and the supporting characters, which are interesting, and you get into other kind of stuff with like culture and all that, are intriguing enough. They are not strong enough to keep it by itself. I would actually have almost been like, hey, you could have done a sitcom with these other characters and I would have been fucking fine with it. The action scenes are just mediocre to me. They aren't the worst possible. Sometimes the CGI dips to kind of weird fucking levels, but not to complete and utter kind of like Velocipaster kind of shit. But it doesn't really communicate effectively really too much with the characters, which good action scenes do. And it is just pacing wise rushed, weird, and just a slog of a story to get through. It doesn't know what it really wants to do and tries to do everything at once and make all of these weird villains and do nothing with them all at the same time. And I hate saying that. I would like to say that Marvel is hitting it out of the park and that all of these shows connect with the movies very well and give you substance for them. But the opposite is happening with me, and I'm like, okay, these aren't like... I've seen worse things. However, they definitely have contention on the bad things that I have seen. Like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. going completely, utterly off the rails. Supernatural going fuck balls wild. Game of Thrones. God. Fucking shite. Marvel really needs to retool its strategy, alright? And that's coming from a Marvel fan. Like, these deserve better. The thing is, most of these shows have gone and they want to do certain kind of things, and they're like the whole kind of WandaVision TV thing. That could have worked if done and executed well. However, I could essentially chop off the first 3 of those episodes and just watch 4 through the end and be like, okay, here. I don't know, man. Because we've got She-Hulk, and I don't know when What If Season 2 happens. I think then it's Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. So we'll see kind of how that works out. I don't know. Like, there can be course corrections. Not every time that you, like, stick your finger in a light socket is it going to be the last. But you're playing with a pretty fucking definitive kind of thing. There are, like, this isn't the complete death knell, but the only time that becomes true when it's the death knell is when you keep repeating the things and going worse and worse. Supernatural, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Game of Thrones. Like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had some pretty strong stuff. Season 5 started going wobbly hoo-ha on certain things, and then just completely went, yeah, we're not going to deal with a snap. So, okay, and then we're going to do, like, our own kind of, like, quantum shit. Fine. This is what I've, like, read into. I'm like, just fuck me. And I don't like saying it. I don't like ripping on things. I don't like pointing out the same fucking mistakes. Okay? Like, it gets to a point where I pretty much feel like, okay, this isn't for me, and I don't want to watch this stuff anymore. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And I don't like to do this. I don't like to shit on things or make people feel bad. My goal is to show things that don't work for me and what I think could be done and improved better, and if that can be done, cool. And if you like this and you enjoyed this, I never want to take that happiness from you. I know it's weird for me to kind of like harp on that, but just because I don't like something doesn't mean that you can't. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want people to feel bad for liking certain things. That's never my goal or my intention. I don't want to feel like I'm attacking you or attacking the MCU. I do think that there's problems that are kind of riffing up, and I do think that they should have went on a hiatus and kind of like cooled things off after Endgame. I know that was kind of their intention before everything went fuckity-doo-dah, fuckity-day. Here's a fucking thing that's gonna shit on that day. But I do think they should have retold to maybe 1 or 2 years off. Definitely planned out who and what they were trying to do. Bring in any kind of new ones. Figure out what they wanted to do with legacy characters and how they wanted to set up and go from there. You don't need 3 movies in a year. Like, if it gets to the point where that is going to sacrifice the quality of it, I would rather want 1 really good Marvel movie versus 3 ones. Now, granted, I really enjoyed Multiverse of Madness. I think that was a really good one that showcased the insanity of Doctor Strange and what can go on with Wanda. Thor went too comedic for me. Granted, I enjoyed the movie and enjoyed some of the things that could have been set up for it, but it's just like, okay, this went too far. Like, Ragnarok was funny, but it still had at least enough seriousness of Thor. Interestingly enough, my favorite Thor movie I think I would pretty much put on would be Infinity War because of how it was acted and what was going on there. But I know this is weird, but this show really crystallized it for me. I didn't intend that for inhuman reasons, but that Marvel needs to look at their game plans because these characters deserve better and the fans deserve better. And I understand that in adaptations, certain things need to change. I get that. Things can't happen 1-to-1. However, I think that the changes that they have made for Ms. Marvel and changing it and having this be like, hey, here's mutants. And it's like, alrighty then. We'll have to see how this goes. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.